Let's begin with how institutions like the British Museum, for example, which is frequently in the crosshairs of activists and the media, has acquired these exhibits over the years. People tend to think, were they acquired by fair means or foul? What's the story?
So, generally speaking, we have an idea of these museums like these immense, huge caverns and balls full of artifacts, all of them absolutely precious, and people guarding them jealously and obviously having acquired them in ways that sometimes are fair, less than fair. The label of the British Museum as being the largest, the world's largest repository of stolen goods may be familiar to you and to your viewers and listeners. Nothing can be farthest from the truth. Because if you take, for example, the British Museum, it has 8 million artifacts. Most of them are like small. I won't say insignificant, but insignificant from the broader public. Shards of pottery, little drawings, images, pieces of documentation about historical artifacts. Sometimes you see sketches made from the 1700s, the 1800s. All of these is part of these huge pot of 8 million artifacts. Things like, bear in mind, for example, the British Museum is also managing across the entire country the portable antiquities scheme, which is basically you find something with a metal detector in a field, you bring it to the British Museum. So and sometimes these things are just a button from a uniform of a hussar of the 1800s, or a key from the 1400s. So all of these things sometimes are very significant, and sometimes they are not. When you look at all of these, and this has been acquired through government grants and government schemes like the portable antiquity schemes, through purchases, because obviously there is an endowment that these museums get in order to acquire and enlarge their collections. And then obviously the entire wealth of things that have been bequeathed to these museums, obviously entire collections that have been just entrusted to the trustees of the British Museums upon the death of somebody in their will. All of these is the bull, is the part that you don't see of the iceberg. Then we have a handful of very high-profile items, like the Rosetta Stone, like the Waganaya, like the Delhi marbles, etc., etc. And all of these have become contested, not because of the impropriety in the manner of their acquisition, and we can get into that in a minute, but because of a very big ideological position that has gained traction in the last 10 years, I would say, more prominently, but yes, there is at least 30 years worth of studies that have started saying, no, these museums are just hoarding stuff, and these objects are particularly iconic, particularly significant, therefore they should be better placed in the place that we come from, where they were originally made, as opposed to where they are now. But people, when they receive this kind of mainstream narrative, they don't bother looking at the details. They just say, oh, okay, yes, absolutely, this is Egyptian, should go back in Egypt. Why is it in the British Museum? There's nothing British in the British Museum. And things like this. Which is the very easy upshot that you want to take from all of these. But can we do policy based on the mainstream upshot, the two sentences snippet that you can get from a very cursory and very superficial look that you can have at whatever it is in a museum? Obviously not. And that's why you really need to get into the nitty-gritty and find out. Obviously, there are elements in our museums that have been contested for a very good reason. For example, Nazi-acquired loot and human remains that are less than 1,000 years old. And all of these has been progressively studied, reflected upon, and the legislation has been changed, for example. You will know very well that there is an absolute prohibition of alienation, so the accessions of getting rid of stuff from the national museums, and in particular the British Museum, because of the 1963 British Museum Act that says unless something is really unfit for purpose, you cannot get rid of it. You must retain it in the collection. And successive legislation has amended the 1963 British Museum Act to exclude specifically from this prohibition things that have been acquired because of Nazi appropriation, or things that have been deemed illicitly held because of the recency and because of their consistency as a human remains. So that's why I'm saying, if you look numerically on 8 million items, we know that about 100,000 items are on display at any given time in the British Museum itself, and many more if you look at other satellite exhibitions and exhibitions all around the world. But generally speaking, it's a small portion. But even of those, it's like a handful, probably 10 items that you can really say they are contested. So from 10 items out of 8 million, to say everything is a huge, immense cave of Alibaba and the 40 collectors, like a comedian said, I think it was in Edinburgh at the Fringe, then it's definitely a very big goal to reach.